I stand at the threshold of your mind, as though upon the banks of an ancient river that flows quietly beneath the conscious hum of your daily life. And I ask, not as a critic, nor as a physician, but as a humble traveler of the soul, are you truly an empath, or merely a vessel overflowing with the waters of raw sensitivity? It is a question that disturbs the placid surface of your self-image, sending ripples into depths long left unexplored. For to be an empath is not simply to feel much, it is to stand at the delicate crossroads between self and other, where the boundaries of your being become translucent, where the breath of another becomes a subtle wind moving through the reeds of your own heart. I call you now to journey with me, not outward into the bustling arenas of the world, but inward into the hushed cathedrals of your psyche. There, among shadowed archways and hidden altars, we shall seek the symbols that reveal the truth of your empathic nature, or perhaps its illusion. Close your eyes, if you will, and allow the dark velvet of your inner world to enfold you. Listen for the faint murmurings of the soul that echo there. These whispers are not content with the shallow labels you may have gathered from books, or the glossy words of strangers who proclaim themselves empaths, as if it were a badge sewn upon the breast. No, your soul seeks a more solemn revelation. Many come to me burdened by a fragile image of themselves, one stitched together from threads of cultural myth and personal wound. They say, I am an empath, but when I gently peel away the gauzy wrappings of their certainty, I find something more precarious beneath. An ache to be special, to be understood, to be sanctified by a word that explains away all their suffering. I ask you now, tenderly, is it empathy you possess? Or is it a thin skin that shudders at every touch? There is no shame in high sensitivity. It is a gift, though it must be tempered. Yet the empath's path is a grave and arduous one, for it demands that you not merely react to the feelings of others, but that you momentarily dwell within their psychic abode. To cross the threshold of another's secret house is no trivial feat. It requires a dissolving of your own identity, a sacred trespass performed with profound respect. So many who claim the empath's mantle are in truth captives of their own unprocessed wounds. They confuse porous emotional boundaries with spiritual attunement. They mistake the storms of their own nervous systems for the quiet thunder of universal compassion. Let us set aside the easy definitions. Let us agree to enter a dim corridor together, hand in hand, where only your true essence will remain when all illusions fall away. Now, we descend. I beckon you to follow me down a spiral staircase carved into the bedrock of your unconscious. With each slow, deliberate step, the familiar light of your constructed self recedes, and the shadows grow lush and eloquent. Here, in these depths, you encounter the first guardian of your empathic truth, the mirror of echoes. Look into it. What gazes back may startle you. It is not only the weeping faces of others you have absorbed, but also the smudged silhouettes of your unmet needs. How many times have you claimed another's sorrow as your own, simply to avoid the cavernous silence within your chest? How often have you merged with another's despair to escape the dread of your own loneliness? These are not accusations, they are invitations to peer more honestly into the swirling patterns of your shadow, for within that dark tapestry lies your true motive. Is it compassion that drives you, or the compulsive hunger to anchor yourself in someone else's pain so you might momentarily forget your own? The empath who has not confronted this shadow becomes a phantom, forever adrift in other people's tempests, never quite touching the ground of their own being. I ask you, here in this cavern lit by dreamlight, what are you fleeing? Whose grief have you carried as a charm against your own emptiness? Breathe with me. Feel that question settle into the marrow of your bones. It will open doors that intellect alone cannot find. Stay close to me now. For beyond this hall of shifting reflections lies a deeper chamber, an ancient sanctum where the true work of transformation begins. Here, initiation is not conferred by any external rite. It is earned by standing utterly naked before the forces that swirl within you. In this subterranean space, I place into your trembling hands a simple yet weighty vessel, the chalice of true empathy. Peer inside, you may find it empty, or you may glimpse within its depths swirling images that are not your own, faces unknown to your waking mind, stories you have never lived. This is the mystery. Empathy is not the compulsive soaking up of another's emotion. It is the sacred art of holding space, so their soul might unfurl safely beside yours. It is the quiet strength to contain another's anguish without being devoured by it. To sit in profound silence, resisting the urge to fix, to rescue, or to dissolve into their agony. This is why true empaths are rare. It requires an interior vessel strong enough to cradle suffering without shattering. It demands that you cultivate your own psychic boundaries like a luminous skin, not walls of iron that bar connection, nor gossamer veils so thin you bleed at every brush, but a living membrane, both sensitive and sovereign. You cannot offer sanctuary if you are forever flooded by another's storm. You cannot be a mirror for another's truth if it fractures under the weight of your unresolved wounds. And so I ask you, will you consent to be forged anew? Will you allow your heart to be annealed in the fires of conscious suffering, that it may become resilient enough to love deeply, yet remain whole? Now, my friend, emerges the moment of sovereign claiming. I set upon your brow, not as a coronation from me, but as a symbolic acknowledgement from your own innermost being, a subtle circlet of light. It is woven from threads of personal responsibility, self-knowledge, and the courage to stand firm in your own soul. Sovereignty is the final hallmark of the true empath. It is the realization that although you may be exquisitely attuned to the tides of others, you are not beholden to drown within them. You can witness another's grief without appropriating it. You can walk beside their pain without stitching it into your own flesh. In this new awareness, empathy ceases to be a liability that leaves you perpetually raw. It becomes a luminous gift, one offered with discernment, guided by an inner compass that knows when to draw near and when to retreat. Imagine now a grand inner hall within you, its columns hewn from the bedrock of your own shadow work, its floor tiled with the quiet certainties of who you are and who you are not. This is your sovereign space. From here, you may extend your empathic gifts as a conscious choice, not a compulsive reflex born of unhealed wounds. Remember this well. True empathy is not martyrdom. It is a dance between two souls where each remains distinctly itself, yet tenderly attuned to the other's secret music. And now, as we stand together at the threshold of your reawakened self, I extend to you a final invitation. It is not to label yourself, empath or otherwise. For such names are only fragile vessels, easily shattered by the storms of life. Rather, I invite you to walk ever deeper into the labyrinth of your own psyche, to explore with reverent curiosity the shadowy alcoves where forgotten parts of you linger, to meet the archetypes that whisper from dream and symbol. Perhaps the wounded healer, the orphan, the magician, each bearing a fragment of your wholeness. Dare to become so intimately acquainted with your own depths that when you encounter another's suffering, you stand upon solid ground. Then your empathy will flow not from anxiety or hidden craving, but from a deep wellspring of authentic connection. So take a breath with me now. Feel the subtle tremor of your own aliveness. Know that this is enough. You are not obligated to absorb every sorrow. You are simply invited to be present, to your own mystery first, and then, in time, to the mysteries of others. And if in quiet hours you again wonder, am I truly an empath? Smile gently. Let the question drift, like incense into the vaulted spaces of your soul. For some truths do not demand an answer. They simply ask you to live ever more consciously, with your heart open, yet guarded by the wisdom of all you have uncovered here. Now we begin the slow ascent from these shadowed catacombs. You might notice how each step upward feels subtly different. You are no longer the same fragile seeker who first descended trembling into the inner dark. Clutched within your hands are faintly glowing relics, salvaged from the labyrinth of your psyche. Perhaps a shard of obsidian from the pit where your sorrow wept, still warm with mystery. Perhaps a feather plucked from the wing of a dream creature that sang of your forgotten joy. These are not idle fantasies. They are living symbols, archetypal tokens that root your empathy in the fertile soil of your own authentic depths. For without these dark gifts, empathy risks becoming a hollow performance, a spiritual bypass cloaked in tender words but devoid of rooted truth. Feel, now, how the weight of these tokens steadies you. When next you sit before someone whose anguish trembles like a raw wound, you will not topple into their abyss. You will remain anchored by these silent treasures, proof that you have wandered your own night sea journey and emerged intact. This is the secret of all true empaths. They have ventured first into the caves of their own hearts. They have sat with their monsters, dined with their sorrow, and befriended their inner exiles. Thus, they can meet the suffering of others with genuine compassion, untainted by the frantic urgency to mend what is not theirs to fix. Now, let me lead you into a small inner chapel, draped in soft shadows. Here burns a single candle, its flame unwavering. Sit with me on this stone bench. Let us fall into a silence so profound it seems to breathe. Within this hush, place your hand upon your chest. Feel the subtle cadence of your own life force. This, too, is an act of empathy. To turn inward, to cradle your own tender being with the same reverence you might offer another. Many who profess to be empaths are lavish in their care for others, yet famine-starved when it comes to themselves. They offer endless comfort outwardly, all while neglecting the ghost child that still waits within them, eyes wide, heart fragile, hoping to be seen. Can you be an empath to yourself? Can you hold vigil beside your own grief, your secret shames, without flinching? Can you whisper gently to your inner orphan, I will not abandon you. Your pain is safe with me. Until you do this, every outward act of empathy risks becoming a subtle barter, an unconscious plea that someone might, in turn, care for you as deeply. But once you learn to become your own sanctuary, your empathy for others flows without hidden strings, like water from an inexhaustible spring. Now the air shifts. You may sense we stand at a threshold, between the sacred inner temple we have explored and the wide, often cacophonous world awaiting your return. But you do not leave empty-handed. Upon your shoulders now rests an invisible mantle, woven from threads of your own healed shadow, your emerging sovereignty, and the fierce gentleness of true empathy. And at your side, perhaps unseen by your outer eyes, walks an archetypal ally, maybe the wise old hermit with his lantern, maybe a quiet dove of the soul, maybe a black dog of Hades, who has escorted you safely through underworld corridors, only to now guard your ascent. Take a moment to feel into this image. It is no idle fantasy, but a living symbol rising from the depths of your personal unconscious, stitched together by dream logic and mythic resonance. This companion is a fragment of your wholeness, returned to guide you forward. When next you step into the world, into the swirl of crowded rooms or the hush of intimate confessions, you will carry this unseen presence. It will steady your breath, remind you where your energy ends and another's begins. It will be your anchor and your whisper of gentle caution. Do not forsake yourself in the name of helping another. And so, beloved traveler of the psyche, I bid you continue onward, but not in haste, for this work is never truly finished. The journey of discerning whether you are genuinely an empath or simply exquisitely sensitive is not answered by a single luminous revelation. It is a spiral path, circling ever deeper through the seasons of your life. Some days you will find your heart so open that all the world's sorrow flows through you like a river. Other days, your own wounds will flare, tempting you to merge with another's pain, so as to momentarily forget your own. Both are sacred experiences if held with awareness. So I leave you with this final invocation, spoken now in the hushed cadence of the soul. May you walk ever deeper into the sanctuaries of your own being. May you learn the true contours of your compassion, tracing them with curious fingers. May your empathy arise not from fracture, but from fullness. And may you stand as a quiet beacon to others, one who has wandered their own midnight forests, who has knelt at their own shadowed altars, and emerged with gentle eyes and a sovereign heart. If ever you wonder again, am I truly an empath? Let that question be the bell that calls you back into sacred dialogue with yourself. And there, in the dim-lit sanctuary of your own psyche, listen not for the quick answer, but for the subtle, timeless music that arises when the soul begins to truly awaken.